Dr. Wark, thank you for your testimony. I'll start my first question with you. In what ways do the tensions in Russia increase the need for more resources and military defense supports to ensure Canada can effectively compete on the international stage?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I didn't quite catch it. I think the question is about defensive capabilities or armed forces capabilities. I think that there would be I'd certainly agree, and probably the conventional view would be, and we shall see, what the government decides in terms of its upcoming defense review update. But I think the view will be that the armed forces needs a lot of new equipment to be able to engage effectively in any future conflict, including along with allies and in support of our own sovereignty. So there is a great deal we have to do in that area, and I think we all recognize the Canadian Armed Forces lacks a range of things from sufficient manpower through key military capabilities, and many of these have been called attention to. And I must say, just as a private citizen, the fact that we were only able to supply 4 Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine struck me as a kind of terrible symbol of the ways in which our military's been allowed to be degraded over the years. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll continue. So lack of manpower, lack of morale. And in addition to that, there's growing concerns that Canada is being left behind in the Five Eyes relationship as the UK, US, and Australia continue to collaborate. How has this worsened in the past 10 years, and how can Canada reestablish a relationship?
Thank you for that question. I'll go in a slightly different direction. I'm not sure I entirely agree. I would say that I would make a distinction between perhaps our military capabilities and the way that they've declined in our intelligence capabilities, particularly on the signals intelligence side and our contribution to the Five Eyes. I think Canada, through the CSE, is regarded as a key actor in the Five Eyes, and it is regarded with respect. We're regarded, I am told, by Five Eyes counterparts as one of the leading countries in terms of our ability to provide cybersecurity, federal data infrastructure and communications, and we're regarded in that respect with respect. I think the challenge for Canada is just keeping up in the face of a wide range of threats. But we are regarded as a key player in the Five Eyes. There are always things that the Five Eyes would like us to do more of. There's been consistent pressure for decades for Canada, for example, to create a foreign intelligence service, a human agency, which we've always resisted. But on the signals intelligence and cybersecurity side, I think we're a strong player.
Okay, thank you. Switching gears, addressing my next question towards Dr. Shull. There's been growing concerns of the use of social media and the information Canadians willfully provide international companies on our cybersecurity. How does social media consumption make us easier targets for these international cyber threats?
Sure. Well, there's traditional cybersecurity, which usually is unauthorized access to systems and data. But what you're talking about, and I really like the question, goes a little bit deeper to societal resilience. Here we're talking about people and people's views of the world. And so when we think about disinformation, misinformation, or malinformation, the point here is that people are persuadable. There are sophisticated influence campaigns that are taking place all the time to try and change our discourse to sow societal division and to pull people in different directions when we need to be uniting. And the point here is that many of those capabilities are commercial off the shelf, right? And so the most highest profile example was the 2016 election in the United States, where the Russians got involved. But the point here is that the system didn't malfunction. Yeah, it functioned as it was built. And so that's what we've got is social intermediation with platforms sitting at the middle of our social discourse, and their incentive is profit. Their incentive is eyeballs. And so that's what we've built for ourselves. It's a bigger conversation than just the cybersecurity stuff, but it's a great question.
Thank you. And just to add to that, what kind of access or power are consumers providing companies when agreeing to these terms and conditions?
Oh, well, that could be the subject of a PhD dissertation. But I would say this, if you were to try and read all the terms of service that you've agreed to all year, there's some estimate that it would take you something like 200 days, like the average individual 200 days. So I think their broader point is we've built our entire system based on consent, which is a fallacy. It's a lie. The fact is we don't know what we're consenting to. And the case in point, one company stuck into their terms of service that if you agreed to their terms, then they would own your soul forever. So now there's one company in San Francisco that just doesn't know what to do with all the souls that it owns.
And going back to yourself, Dr. Wark, with having you in the room, how do you see Canada's current investment and infrastructure compared to other countries, like the United States, for example?
Sorry, could I just investment in infrastructure? Could you just be
with comparison to other countries like the United States?
I would say we have a long way to go in deciding what we want to do about critical infrastructure. And let's put it that way. We're waiting for a critical infrastructure strategy, which has been under study by the federal government. You will have seen a reference to Bill C-26, which refers to critical infrastructure, but we have a list of critical infrastructure that dates back to 2009. In other words, it hasn't been updated since that time, which is the last time we had a critical infrastructure strategy. So the starting point is going to have to be to decide what we mean by critical infrastructure. And once we've done that, and that'll be an important step, but not easy, once we've done that, then we can think about regulating the terms by which critical infrastructure functions and what we expect of them in terms of particularly cybersecurity strategies. There's some of that underway, obviously informally. Some aspects of critical infrastructure have done a terrific job in terms of ensuring they have very high levels of cybersecurity, and probably the major banks are a key example of that. But across the board, it's a very, it's a very diverse system.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Due to the competitive nature of cyber employment opportunities, is it safe to assume, or is it accurate to assume, that the Canadian securities establishment struggle with acquiring employees with the actual skills that are required to combat cybersecurity and cyber warfare?
Could maybe take that one from the beginning. I think it's a great question. It's something that we talk about a lot at CSE and the Center for Cybersecurity. We're lucky in a way. Statistics-wise, we do have a great deal of interest in our organization. We have an interesting mission. A lot of people are interested in this topic. With our Cyber Center taking a more public profile, we've certainly developed a greater inroads into the public in terms of awareness, and that has translated into a great deal of interest in working here. We hire a variety of people from different technical fields, so it's not all one type of profession. We have engineers, mathematicians, cybersecurity experts, etc. So we also have a wide variety of jobs available. Having said that, I think as Sami indicated earlier, it is a competitive space, and so we do need to innovate, and we do need to make sure that we're keeping up with our competitors in this space. So that's why some of the initiatives that we've taken on in terms of making CSE an excellent place to work, and all the initiatives that it takes to become a top employer in Canada, providing an environment for people to be innovative, and also fostering an inclusive environment where we can continually bring in new people to this sector who might not have considered it before, particularly women or individuals from different ethnic origins.
Okay, thank you for that. So just in the nature of time, I'm going to keep going. So sure. We know that there's a lot of remaining challenges with regards to financial compensation or what have you, but I'm going to move along to, as bodies are continuing to change their mandate, how do you see the relationship moving forward between Cyber Command and the Canadian Armed Forces, and how do you think how can we ensure that we're optimizing both their areas of expertise and their resources?
Thanks very much. That's a fantastic question. We've found an excellent partner in the Canadian Armed Forces in terms of what we call force generation, of developing a new workforce to be interested in the cyber domain. We also CSE also works very closely with U.S. Cyber Command in this field, and we do talk about workforce strategies in terms of building the expertise that we need in order to be to have successful tools to meet the challenges of the future. Thank you.
Thank you. So we recognize that one of the CSE's central aims is to carry out active cyber operations. So my question is, given the different bodies such as Foreign Affairs, National Defense, would CSE be operating independently or in conjunction with these different bodies?
Indeed. Thanks for that question. We definitely do not work independently. We work very closely with the Canadian Armed Forces and the Department of Foreign Affairs. Department of Foreign Affairs, in fact, is required for active cyber operations. The Minister of Foreign Affairs is required to provide her consent for those operations. We work very closely in the planning and the development of those operations and assessing the risks. And on the CAF, we essentially have a combined workforce where we have embedded officers into both areas so that we continue to work effectively on this aspect of our mandate.
Thank you. Earlier in your testimony, there was comment with regards to recruitment being highly challenging and that the retention of the current workforce is extremely difficult. So perhaps you could allow you to continue with those further comments. Or perhaps it was your colleague that was speaking to it. Struggles with the retention.
Thank you. No, actually, I meant we are investing in retention and making sure that we continue to be an employer of choice to provide our staff with an environment where they can thrive, the training opportunities that they need. So we are also our retention.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but one last question. So just so we're not repeating yourself, do we have currently enough personnel to fully meet the operational requirements?
Thank you again. We are constantly hiring, and the demand on our services is growing. So we are busy hiring as much as we can.
Okay, thank you.